Gonna make myself a tuna sandwich. I got asked the other day, or I should say, hey, I'm in Ensenada, Mexico, at a new friend I met through Everyday Hobo. Invited a couple of us down, or any verified members, he could show you around the area. This is old stomping grounds for a long time. Anyways, I'll touch on that more in a different description, I guess. A person I met in Guatemala not long ago asked me about one of my, I guess, scary experiences when I was working in the Middle East, namely Saudi Arabia. Is something I can go back to. So I thought I would try and do my best to put myself in the situation I was. One of those come to Jesus moments. What do you do? Right? Anyway, so I was working in Saudi Arabia for an industrial company, sales products, selling, sometimes door to door, but mostly just picking up money, Saudi riyals, and receipts or issuing product. And I was in Jeddah at this time, which is the port city on the Red Sea, just across from Egypt in Sharm el-Sheikh, and staying in a compound called Riyadh Compound in the Red Sea Village, it was called. Sorry, not Riyadh Compound, the Red Sea Village in Jeddah. And one day, our section was to go down to the Sanaya, which is like a local souk, but it's full of auto parts and other, just a gigantic area for car parts and accessories. And I went into this one place and sat down, and ended up being the sheikh, which is the owner or manager, ended up being the owner of, or the police chief, and an owner of a bunch of businesses and houses, and had a few different wives. Very, very nice guy. And I had to pick up some Saudi riyals from him and issue a receipt, and in comes two big tall Sudanese guys, which is very normal for Saudi Arabia at that time, for sheikhs or bosses or business owners to have security guards from Sudan, because they're big, tall, very tall people. Anyways, they come in with a lady, and she was from Eritrea, and she was reciting stuff out of the Quran, Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar, Allah Kareem, which is like peace be upon you, and something was very distressful to her. Well, from what I could figure out from my Arabic and keeping things to myself, because there was a few other people in the room, she was like sitting in another room, and I was like in another room, and she had left being a maid where she was, so she was considered a runaway, and I guess that's not allowed or something. So the sheikh I was talking to, he kind of looked at me and looked at her and said something in Arabic I didn't fully understand. It was a different dialect of Arabic. And then one of the big tall Sudanese security guys lit up a big cigar. And I'm sitting there, and the Sheikh Abdullah, go figure his name, he looks at me and smiling with a big old smile, and he's got his gutra and his thobe on, the red gutra, the white thobe, and the black snake thing around his head. And he said he just, basically meant fadlak, which is please, he needs to deal with something. Do I mind? I'm like, sure, whatever. And the one big tall Sudanese guy, he orders to light up a cigar, or he did it on purpose or something, and asked the Eritrean lady, to hold up her hand. And as he continued to suck on the cigar and make the embers hot on the one end of it, a couple of moments later, everybody was sort of looking at me, looked at the other room, and it was, side note, it was to teach me not to do wrong, I guess, is what they were doing, or this is what happens, or I'm not sure. But anyways, they burned her, 5 or 6 times. And I had to sit there and witness it. And then in that moment, you have to decide to yourself, you're all alone as a traveler or a worker in a foreign country. So I guess that's more what my video is about, is it's a bit all over the place. But I wanted to share it with a couple of people, and the one person I asked in particular, what do you do in a situation where you might find yourself in trouble? Well, that situation, believe me, in my mind, I was like, man, I want to jack this guy's butt, right? Or report it or do something. But you know, this is back early 2000s, just after the second invasion of the Gulf War in Iraq. I think it was then President George Bush Jr. So a lot of things play into your mind really fast. Oh my God, what do? You know, and I just played calm. And you know, my heart was thumping faster, and they just kept smiling like everything's fine, and they're serving me more tea, Arabic tea, you know, which is very custom. And then they're like, "Oh, stay for lunch, the sheikh or whatever." And then the lady just sat there and she was crying and whatever, and she had on the habaya, all the black, you know, covered the mask, everything. And she just sat there. And I still remember it like it was yesterday. And the question I got from one of the people that asked me to do this video was, how did I feel after? You know, after a couple of weeks, I remember every day I slept on it. You couldn't get the image out of your head. But eventually you do, and you move on. You have to. You can't let life, when you see stuff like that, you can't let life take you over, or it'll consume you. And you'll never ever be able to move forward, because you'll always look back to that point. And, you know, people can call me a coward, and they can say, you know, I'm stupid and I'm all these things. But when you're in that moment, in somebody else's country, where you don't have a leg to stand on other than you're a guest, you don't have your passport. At the time, Saudi didn't give you, they took your passport when you went in across the King Fahd Causeway or by air. As soon as you went in, your passport was to be given to them, and then you got a little piece of paper, or an igama, which is a multiple exit re-entry visa, which allows you to leave the country anytime you want, the kingdom. So anyways, yeah, that's my little touch on that. And I still do remember it very, very vividly and clearly. And I feel sorry for women that have to experience those types of things in countries like the Middle East. But don't let experiences that you hear that the Middle East is hard and this and that, because it's a very beautiful part of the world. And the people are very, very friendly. And the food is absolutely amazing. And Saudi Arabia as a country as a whole has come a long way since the early 2000s. You know, women are driving now, women are working more, they're more active on the streets. Yeah, they've done a lot of good. There's still a long way to go, I guess, but that's not for me to decide. That's not my country. But back to what you do as a single person in a situation like that. If you see something, don't feel that you have to act and beat somebody up and play the macho hero guy. If you can, bite your tongue, walk the other way, report it if you feel that you should, or report it to somebody you're working for or something. But don't do anything in the moment, because you don't want to hurt yourself, right? Or put yourself in danger. Yeah. So I'm finishing making my tuna sandwich. There it is. I made it yesterday, so the onions had a chance to, you know, release and be quit of my belly. And I always cut my tuna sandwich in half. Normally I would probably put a couple pieces of lettuce in there, but I don't have any. And it's raining today, off and on in Ensenada, and it's cold. Yeah, damn cold. Yeah, there we go. That's my story on that, so I hope I answered that for the person. And I'm not sure if I'm going to do stuff for like a YouTube channel. I'm more doing this for my everyday hobo friends that we chat and share information. And I felt rather than type it all up, be easier just to make a YouTube conversation about it and then put it up there. That way I don't have to write it all out and answer over and over. So there's a bit of me. I'm sure we all have a similar story. The older we get, we see lots of things in our life, and they reflect everybody differently. Or not reflect, they affect everybody differently. But you just have to move on, right, to be happier. Because if you don't, like I said before, it'll just plague you the rest of your life. So cheers, happy travel, and hope everybody's well today.